Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about compressors, just how a lot of you guys asked for in the last video. The overarching theme is going to be a country tone, but the fundamentals we're going to talk about in this video, you can apply it to whatever genre you're in. The tone I'm going to build out today works for country, but it also works really well for rock, and honestly, anything that has a little bit of overdriven guitar. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, in today's video, we're going to talk a lot about compressors, how you guys asked in the last video, and also how to use it on your pedal board, and just some great tips for getting really good tones. While I'm going to be focused on building a good country tone, this preset is going to work really well for, honestly, rock too. There's a lot of good crossover in the country world between rock and roll and country, especially if you're listening to modern country. Some of it is four chords in the truth, but some of it is some good southern rock. So we're going to jump into it. So don't tune out if country isn't your thing. Really, the way that I try to structure these videos is teaching a lot of concepts hidden into one. So the last video was talking about how to build really pretty, modern, clean tones. But if you watch that video, there's a lot more than just me showing you how to build a preset. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to experiment with something on this video. We're going to do the AC30, which is just a staple in the country world, but I'm going to try to do a blend, doing parallel programming between this amp and a Deluxe Reverb. I'm either going to use the Deluxe or the Princeton. We'll see. The way I do all these videos is they're not scripted. I just run with it, so we'll see. All right, let's start off. We're going to do the C130. The guitar of choice today is basically the Strandberg Telecaster. It's called the Saline. Alright, I want to clean this up. I don't want... Oh, wait. Just like in every video, let's increase this up. Yeah, I don't want any natural overdrive from this amp. And with this amp, with the C130 or AC130s, the overdrive is straight with the volume. Let me see. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I might boost it up a little bit. Let's see. All right, now we're hitting the tubes really hard. Let's go. All right, let me check what we're mic'd with on the cab. Yeah, I'm probably going to... Let's do a condenser mic. Sorry, you're hearing my dog Boston. He's hanging out in the studio with me this morning. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to keep that. That's pretty good. Maybe, let me show you. Yeah, that's more what I'm looking for. Again, we're going to do a high cut filter. I like to cut pretty aggressively. I cut at 8.5. Sorry, I misclicked. And again, remember, if you weren't watching the last videos, the reason why we want to do this is because digital, when we're jumping into digital, we need to keep in mind how tube works, because at the end of the day, that's what we're modeling is old tube amps, right? Whenever my guitar is plugged into an amp, while these pickups are picking up a very dynamic range, the tubes are compressing down and doing a very organic compression. So we need to replicate that. You know, in digital, we can process all signals, but not all signals should be processed if we're trying to replicate a good guitar tone. So I find that, you know, 80 hertz on the low pass filter and 8.3K on the high pass filter or high cut really helps your guitar sound a little bit more organic. And you know, I mentioned this in the last video. If you're playing through a PA system, sometimes your guitar can come across as boomy. And what I mean by boomy is like just in your face, competing with the bass. Oh, didn't mean to rhyme. But if that's happening, do a more aggressive high cut filter. Like, don't be afraid to push this up to 120. You can also do a global EQ. But I prefer not to do that because all amps react a little different, even in modeling. You know, that's really relevant in the tube world, but even in modeling, they act differently. Just do it on your individual preset. Next, let's add a reverb. Then we're going to jump into our the main event, which is really compression. I just wanted to give you guys an actual use. And there's so much more use for compression outside of country. I have just started a band and we're playing a blend of like classic rock and country with some modern rock. So I'm really building this out for me. Yeah, that's it. All right, so the next thing we're gonna jump into is we need a really good compressor. So going through effects, dynamics, and EQ. All right, so you've got, what, 4 different compressors and maybe 5, depending on how you use the sustain. The coming down from like order of difficulty of learning, the dynamic compressor is pretty straightforward. The pedal comp, this is like your boss compressor. So if you know your boss compressor, this is similar. Simple compressor, this will do chicken picking really well. But I want to talk about the studio compressor just so we can go over some of the questions you guys had in the last video, and hopefully I can help answer them. I found a graphic online that I'm going to put on the screen right now, but the number one thing you need to know about is threshold. So when we're talking about threshold on a compressor, say that we really want to work where our guitar signal is only 3 dB above a certain point. But some of our signal with our pickups, we're pushing into the 5 or 6 dB threshold. So threshold, I can come in here and this is where you got to use your ears because there's no numbers. And on here, it might be difficult to see what you're doing versus if you're in like a post-processing with, say, Logic or Pro Tools. But basically, our threshold is where we're trying to set that standard. So if I said that I want to keep my threshold around 3 dB, as I pull that threshold back, think of it as starting off at the top. So if I'm at 10 dB and I'm trying to pull down to 3, well, we got to work our threshold down until we find where we like. All right, so that's what threshold is. Basically, at what point are we going to start compressing the signal? Now, when we worry about threshold, the next thing we need to worry about is ratio. So ratio, the way that it's going to work is how far down are we going to be compressing the signal? I found another graph that I'll pull up on the screen that'll hopefully make sense of this, but we need to think about basically the way you can think of ratio, because you're going to see it in like a 2-to-1, a 6-to-1, and a 10-to-1. What these means for, so think about if something is 2 decibels above, we're going to lower it down to 1. That's going to be the ratio in which we're compressing. Now, you got to use your ear here, because there are no set rules of what ratio of compression is really good. Here in a second, we'll start messing around with it. But again, I don't want you to think that I am using some type of surgical precision that I just have pre-programmed. All I do is I listen. Now, post-processing in a studio environment is different. Using a studio on your pedal board, ears. You have to use your ears and just trust your ear. And just know there's no right or wrong answer here. It's all about what you enjoy. But I just want to shed some light on this. Once you get your threshold and your ratio, the next thing you're going to want to work with is your gain. So keep in mind, if the signal is coming up here to 5 dB and we're lowering it down to 3 dB, we have 2 decibels of sound loss. So one thing we can do is if we want our entire guitar signal to sound really full and thick at 5 dB, well, now we can increase our gain. Now, for attack and release, the compressor isn't going to be working all the time, right? It's only going to be when the signal is hitting a certain threshold. What attack is how fast do we want that compressor to kick in? And our release is how fast do we want the compressor to release that compression? In school, I remember studying there's like 2 different types of knees. You have a soft knee and a hard knee. And the difference is that a soft knee, it's not as abrupt to the signal, whereas a hard knee is. So depending on the type of compression you're going for, you may want to go with a hard knee if you want maybe like a hardcore chicken picking thing, or a soft knee if you don't. The studio compressor is really good if you want to really understand these things and mess around with it. We're also going to look at the pedal compressor. This is a very, very popular compressor in the country world. So again, a lot of the stuff we're doing, it's the same things that we just talked about, except now they put it in a form factor that might make more sense in a guitar setting. The cool thing though is that with the Fender Toolmaster Pro, you can really have studio level compression as a pedal. But really what we're looking for is just something to get us, we don't want a, well, I don't want a true chicken picking tone, but I want to get close. My tone, I'm going to boost it. I want something really trebly. Let's increase the compression. Way down yonder. All right. Yeah, we'll keep it here. I'll probably, let me see, let's do a little bit more. I want my attack to be pulled down just a bit. Yeah, that's good right there. That's chicken fraud. All right, now let me show you what it sounds like without a compressor. Yeah, so what my ear is hearing is, without the compressor, on the bass side of things are really kind of hammering and taking over, but I want to hear a little bit more treble. So whenever I'm compressing the signal, it's going to bring up those low ends and bring down the really, really high end. So that, basically it's making an overall cleaner tone for me. The next thing we're going to need in our signal path, for a good country tone, you also need a good overdrive tone. So we're going to go into effects. The overdrive that I really love on this unit is the Mythic Drive. If you're unfamiliar with this pedal, this is basically a Klon replica. Those pedals are ridiculously expensive if you're going to get a real one. So I love that they included a copy of it. It's a really simple overdrive. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, let me see. We're going to pull down. Let's boost our gain. We're going to drop our treble just a bit. That's getting really close to doing it for me. But what I want to do, I think the C130 or the C30 there is a little not quite where I want it. So what we're going to do is we are going to add 2 amps. Let me do add a block. We're going to add it here. And I think I want to do a Deluxe. All right, let's dial in this Deluxe. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off all of these pedals. And on the blend, the Vox amp is not getting anything, so it is only my Deluxe. All right, now let's go ahead. We're gonna put this. Yeah, the 57 is pretty good, but let's do a ribbon. Yeah, basically what I want is I want the Vox amp to be used for my high ends, and I want my Deluxe to handle low ends, because the low end on a Deluxe, if you've ever played one in person, is just like so good. And I'm also, again, we're going to cut down this high pass filter, and if anything, I could probably even cut more aggressively. Yeah, we're going to do a really aggressive cut, and the thought process is, again, we're going to let the Vox amp take care of most of the high end range, but we want this to give us a little oomph to even out the sound. So I'm going to keep the emphasis on the low end here. Now, on a Deluxe, in real life, I learned this from a guy who had the best Les Paul tone I've ever heard. And he was playing through a 65 Deluxe, and his piece of advice was, on a Deluxe, this is an amp that you want to take away what you don't want. So literally his settings on his was everything was at 10, and then he just pulled back what he didn't want. But we're not going to do that here. But that's what, dude, it sounded so good in person. Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear how this sounds differently than my headphones, but right now that sounds really good. So let's bring both amps up to volume and let's hear what our blend sounds like now. Yeah, man. Now that is instantly a little bit fuller. And you know, we could see, right now my rig is mostly in mono, so I don't want to get too crazy on the panning, but you can split it up a little bit. Yeah. You just got to be careful when you're in a mono rig, because in a mono rig, I don't have two speakers, right? But since we're using two amps, if we split it just a little bit, I found that it gives the amps a little bit of room to breathe, even on a mono rig. So that's just a little trick I've been messing around with. Try it out for yourself and see what you think. Now let's turn on our rig. So here's both amps with compression. Let's give it the old Chattahoochee. Ah, that's good, man. That sounds really good. Let's check out our overdrive and hear how it's hitting both amps. All right, I don't know how copyright works on on YouTube, so we probably shouldn't do that. I'm trying to monetize. But that is a really good sound. So the next thing we could do for a good country tone is typically you'll hear what's called a slapback. A slapback is basically a delay, but the timing is such where you're hearing the delay almost instantly. So let's go ahead, and then we'll go ahead and program everything with our foot controls, so we can control all of this with a click of a button. So let's go down to effects. We want delay. That's still too slow. Let's pull it back in the mix. Yeah, that's pretty close. I'll pull it back one time just a little bit. Yeah, that's good. I like that. You know, and you can really do whatever you want here. For me, I like the way it sounds hitting the front of the amp. So we're just going to go back to instrument parallel 1. Just know you can do that if you want to clean up your delay. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, it kind of has a little bit of a shimmer on the top that I kind of like. I'd be curious to hear how this sounds coming out of a PA, so I'll try that when I'm done filming. But yeah, that's good right there. So here's what we're going to do. All right, what we're going to do is go into foot switch assign, and I am going to set everything up to go ahead and be able to turn this on and off. So for our compressor, we're going to make it blue when it's engaged because we have a blue compressor. And next thing we're going to do is our overdrive. I want it to be orange when it's on. And then lastly, we're going to add in a delay. For memory delay, let's make it, I don't know, let's do green. Why not? That'll be cool. Yeah, and I think I'm going to save it there. And I think that's what I'm gonna keep it at. You know, you can always add in more things. Like another pedal you may need in a country setting is like a chorus if you're doing some 90s country. But for the most part, this will get the job done. Country setups is not a complex rig. And you know, you can adjust this too. So if you want to do a little bit more rock, instead of using this Mythic drive, and you could get a good rock tone from the Mythic drive, but you could consider using the green box, or you know, even getting into some of the distortions. That'll do it as well. And I know that there's a Nashville Overdrive that I could use, but the thing is that I'm a Southern rock guy. I know this pedal from all of my heroes, so I love using it because I feel like, you know, it sounds good. Yeah, and look, you can use it for rock too. Check it out. You can use it for anything. Let me try something real quick. I read about doing this in an article. Yeah, you could change up your delay where it's only hitting, like, say if you don't like that top end shimmer. That top end shimmer is coming from the Vox amp. If you wanted to cut it, you can just put it on the Deluxe Reverb. So only the Deluxe Reverb is getting it. But keep in mind, our panning is only 30-30, so it's not really gonna, or 10 and 10. So it's not really gonna affect too much. Yeah, that sounds good. All right, I think I'm going to keep it there. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put it in the comment section. If you're enjoying this content and want to study with me further, consider checking out my Patreon. My Patreon, I put a lot of time into it. There are going to be some changes coming up. So right now it's all written lessons, but I'm getting ready to film a lot of my lessons that I have published, so you can actually study with me. You guys know I'm a big fan of the attitude of gratitude mentality. So first of all, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching me and supporting me on this channel. I'm grateful that you are here, and I'm grateful that you guys are really picking up what I'm putting down. So continue to be involved. I really hope that I answered y'all's questions about compressors. If y'all have any more questions, please leave it in the comment section and I will get back to you. And maybe in written form, I can write out a little bit more about how you can use certain things in a mix. But I hope that overall this gave you at least a high level understanding of what a compressor is and how to use it and how it affects guitar tone. Really, you will see the bread and butter of a compressor in post-processing, but that doesn't mean it's only for post-processing. Before you get out of here, I want to know one thing you're grateful for. So leave me a comment in the comment section. And with that, thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one.